And first of all, if we look at the economic GDP, especially the outlook, right? If we go past the pandemic, we can sort of see the overall trend and where what level China is at. Right now, it's estimated to grow at around 4% in the next 5 years, dropping from, of course, perhaps a little bit higher in the 2023. In 2024, the GDP is about 5 or 4.8. Then in the future, we do expect similar level, potentially slower, as the not only the size of the economy of China expanded, but also the geopolitical tension right now between U.S. and China. We do expect that to bring more uncertainty in terms of the growth rate. But overall, you can see that China is still on a very high level compared to all the other developed regions. And there's also a lot of immaturity within the healthcare industry, within the healthcare market, the structural immaturity that we will be getting to later. So you can see still, we look at China, especially with the growth of generative AI, we can see that China still has a very positive growth potential in the future for investor and for industrial players in China from global. Moreover, we can look at the sort of the IQVIA data, is that we see sort of two side of the pendulum. The first side is really China is trying to impose this structural change to really save the budget from the OPO, the originator, the generics, the off-patent originators, and also for products that are so mature and occupying overly excessive budget. On the other side, this budget is used to boost the healthcare service sector and also the pharmaceutical innovative pharmaceutical sector. So we do see a structural change in between, but overall we do also see a stabilized trend, growing at around 3% in the next 5 years, a little slower than the GDP growth. And speaking of one of the key trends is you can see sort of the mechanism opened up for China, especially when we look at how much time it took before 2017 for a pharma to go through all the regulatory pathway. For example, you can see that before 17, before the reform of NMPA, the regulator in China, it took 27 months for the manufacturer to get a CTA approval. Now it's 3 months, and before 2017, it took 26 months to get an NDA approval. Now it's 6 months. So basically, what we are seeing here as the result is that when manufacturer try to launch a product in China synchronized with this global market, it's definitely achievable, and it definitely has been achieved by certain players in China. It's more of a strategic option for a global player to choose which country to launch first and which country to launch second. What are the pricing effect? What are the access effect in different countries? But overall, the mechanism or the system is there to enable that to happen. For example, if a player were to place China as a prioritized launch to market, from a regulatory pathway standpoint or from a mechanical standpoint, it is definitely achievable. Also, if we can see how fast the drug gets listed in the NRDL, we can see a lot of different drugs across different therapy, whether it's primary care or oncology. We do see them spending very little time in between getting the NDA and getting the access in the NRDL. Moreover, we can see that local innovator has also become a very significant, a very strong momentum in terms of shaping the overall innovative picture in China. As you can see, the percentages of how many novel drug approval accounts for by the local player has been drastically increased from 20%, perhaps 7 years ago, to right now 60%. This is not to say that MNC has launched less, because if you look at the overall trend, at least from an overall number perspective, I think MNC has stabilized its launched molecule or new novel assets. And also, if we look at how many deals happened between these local innovators and the MNC, we can see sort of the transactional deal number has gone up drastically. This is not only due to the volume of sort of the innovator from local side, but also due to the overall quality, right? Used to come up with chemical products before. Right now, it's coming up with biologic product, and not only just biologic products of me too or me better, but actually spending the time to come up with first in class, especially when you think of product in biologics, such as bispecific, trispecific, in combination with the ADC, right? That gives Chinese innovator a lot of opportunity to come up with unique combos within these arrays. For example, you can have a PD-1 VEGF, though PD-1 has been done and VEGF has been done in the past, but the Castle PD-1 VEGF has claimed to be a first in class in its own racetrack, and from head-to-head comparison clinical trial, it has surpassed Keytruda by more than 30% in terms of its clinical efficacy. So as you can see, this gives Chinese manufacturer a lot more opportunity to sort of elevate their position or the value of their assets. Furthermore, like I mentioned before, really it's a shift of pendulum instead of overall decrease of budgeting. You can see that VBP is the pricing tool that squeezes out the value of the overall overly matured products of manufacturers. And with NRDL, it's bringing innovation into the payer's budget every year. And MNC, among all that, has benefited the most from the increment or encouragement of innovation. And if we look at how the payer has been structured, we can see that over a little more than 50% of the value are spent by the basic medical insurance. But we need to also notice the price gap between, for example, the basic medical insurance, which is NRDL, and also the between that and the commercial health insurance, because this one covers around 95% of the population, right? But if it's only spending accounts for 51 of the expenditure, that must mean there's a potential or a significant price gap between what the public payer are paying for the product and what the private payers are paying for the products. And also, there's also an unhealthy distribution of 44% of out-of-pocket spending, because if we look at the healthcare in a developed country, in a developed region, 44% is apparently over what the self-pay market can really hold. Especially if you think of this as the co-pay or the self-pay out-of-pocket part of the reimbursed products, and also a lot of self-pay therapies. With that being said, we definitely expect this middle part to expand further, especially to saturate and fulfill a lot of the premium medical needs. For example, there's a lot of local PD-1s in the NRDL, right? Reimbursable, very cheap. But on the other hand, Keytruda has been selling selling pretty well as well in China market. So there's a lot of consumers who are pursuing the quality of the product, the imports, the global brand names, and also sort of the the one with abundant clinical evidences. So definitely we expect in the future that the private sector to really expand and the private access become an essential alternative to right now perhaps the only choice of an NRDL. As you can see, we have seen different MNC pulling quite staggering market performances in the past. But also when we look at the portfolio of top selling products, we do see two trends. One trend is that the concentration or the percentage of biologics and innovative products has been taken the main stage, right? We don't see the chemical products anymore, any more dominant any longer, and we don't see a lot of off-patent products a lot, except aside from some of the really large brand names. On the other hand, we do see also a trend of TA or disease area focus. For example, if you look at Novartis, it's really pretty much focused in primary care and self-immune, right? This is sort of the new racetrack of what we call the specialty primary care. So these are the biologics that are replacing the old chemical drugs in the primary care with much more premium price. And this is how they run the business sustainably in China. And Roche is definitely focusing on oncology generational improvement to replace their old portfolio and keep their strong presence in the same TA. And Pfizer is relying more on the premium anti-infection portfolio from antibiotics to vaccines. And AstraZeneca is a mixture of CV, RM, the primary care, and the oncology. So that's the first section. We are explaining sort of what are the opportunities and key differences of this new era. And moving forward, we will be getting to the second part, which we take a look at the key success factor to win in future China market. And we have summarized as basically four different sectors. The first one is the winning portfolio, right? If we look at the China market experiencing structural change, right? Squeeze out the products out of the OPO, out of the off-patent products and bring that value towards the innovation. If the market is having this structural change, does the company as well have this structural change? How much it's really expanding its pipeline in innovative launch? How much is really strengthening its portfolio synergy in one TA, like maybe perhaps what Novartis and Roche did? And if that's not the case, does it have a supplementary BD capability to pick up higher value assets in China from local innovators? And also, do they have a well-coordinated connection between R&D to commercial, which we will get into definitely a little bit later. The second part is the integrated access, right? As we mentioned before, NRDL is very dominant in China, but it's not a must-have anymore. If we look at sort of the Keytruda, sort of the vaccine market, they have been able to be successful without the NRDL. And currently, due to the aging, due to the budget, due to the slowdown of economy, it's harder and harder to argue a very good price with the public payer. And that is also why it's very important to have a mindset of access pathway. Meaning that not only looking at the NRDL as the only choice, but to expand your private market access as diverse as much as possible to make sure if you fail or not succeeding to achieve the price agreement with the public player, you still have a sustainable high margin business running around in the private access. So that's the integrated access. And then there's a new business model. For example, the latest innovative launch have different traits. Some are really high value specialty care, some of more of consumer driven, such as the GLP-1 in the obesity market, right? And different types of products require different type of business model. For example, the obesity model requires a lot of investment in the digital platform, in the social media, and also sort of in the prescription channel online to make sure that the consumer or the patients are activated in a comprehensive way, and the prescription channel is well connected to patients' purchasing needs and conveniently enough to penetrate optimal market. And the second is also when we think of channels, when we think of digitalization, there are different stakeholders that we need to make sure we engage well. Last but not least, there's the technology part, right? How technology has been enabling China pharmaceutical players to compete on a higher level in this new day and age that we'll definitely get into a bit later with specific examples. So speaking of the portfolio, that we can see this unhealthy distribution of expenditure. For example, in the US, although much are overly priced, but we can see they're overly priced, at least for mostly innovative products, right? Not the off-patent, non-innovative products, right? In Germany, it's a little like US and much unlike China. China has only 12% or mostly at most 20% of the value spent on innovative drugs. Most of the value are still spent on the matured products. But this does not mean that China will stay this way for much longer because of all the policy initiative, all the mechanism, all the encouragement of innovation that we're trying to that we laid out earlier. That we expect this structure will quickly shift at least toward the European level in the future years. And also, if we look at the active player in the China, the MNCs are actively investing sort of in their R&D capability. Their incubators, for example, the incubator that Roche has inspired a lot of local business owners to open business and start creating new techno ways to enrich the healthcare industry. And this is what they call Digital Healthcare Incubator 2.0. And if we look at Takeda, there's also a collaboration with local pharma to sort of together explore the potential in different TAs. And there's also straight acquisition from MNC to acquire high valuable assets in China. So a lot of things are happening in terms of enriching the portfolio, making sure the portfolio or the products are fitting what the trend of the market develop. And specifically, if we look at why that's essential, it's because the green line used to be the life cycle. If we visualize the product's life cycle in the past, right? We don't have VBP in the past. We don't have a patent cliff or a mechanism to impose patent cliff, right? So we sort of have a long tail. You can sell Lipitor for 30 years. You can sell Lantus for 40 years. And there's no generic can really be there to challenge your market position. But right now with VBP, with this mandatory competitive bidding process soon after the patent expiration, right? We do see a very steep patent cliff after VBP. What this does is really setting a time window of a fixed time window of a product's life cycle, which means that and also nothing that we can do over here, but we should really focus on what we can do at the beginning. And what we can see that is that this mechanism of the system has allowed you to launch the product as fast as possible, has allowed you to enter the NRDL as fast as possible, and also access the hospital as fast as possible, right? So this is what the all the MNC are investing to make sure that they maximize the product growth or uptake in such a fixed and short time window. And a lot has to happen not only regarding the speed to market, right? The capability of market access locally and centrally, and also the regulatory possibility to fight for the best regulatory opportunity, for example, accelerated approval, bridging study, and all of that. But also, if we look at the capability right now, how well can we connect the R&D sector with the commercial sector to provide support for the commercial team to make them quickly understand the market and quickly understand the disease area, making sure they understand what to do before the product launch. Because if you want to have this fast uptake, right, what you have to do has to happen before the product launch, not really what happening after the product launch. So a lot of MNC, a lot of players are starting to prepare their product launch 3 years, 4 years before the actual estimated launch date. And what they did is leveraging medical team, medical affairs, MSLs, to really lay out the strategy of how to make sure that the market is ready and the product share of voice is ready, and the access, for example, early access and private insurance and any other program is ready before the product launch. Then you can talk about this momentum, right? Because of everything you have prepared for 3 years before the product launch. So this is really a dramatic shift of how they used to do business in China and how they're doing business right now in China. And also I think we talked about the importance of NRDL, right, as a public or as a single payer system in the public sector. I think NRDL has also improved tremendously in terms of its efficiency, and also in terms of the transparency and how they evaluate the product in terms of pricing and all that, and clinical value and all that, right? The average time to NRDL from product launch is only 0.9 years. So it is really a choice instead of something that you need to struggle for, right? And on the other hand, we do see how important it is in terms of how much it accounts for MNC. So 95% of the products from Novartis revenue are contributed by products within the NRDL. So a lot of products want to have the NRDL available because the NRDL allows them not only to have the reimbursement done, but also have the great opportunity to penetrate hospital access. Because even if you launch the product ready, the hospital access or the hospital drug list is still saturated and very hard to get it through. So with NRDL label, with NRDL identity, right, and there's a formal reason, official reason for the hospital stakeholders or decision makers to consider your product access. But with that being said, I do want to mention that NRDL is really right now suffering from budget risk. For example, the income growth has dropped, and the income growth is much slower than the growth rate of expenditure. So we do tend to see payers in China become more and more conservative, especially on reduction of the pricing in the negotiation, which means that what they will always be asking is the lowest price globally, betting on the market being the largest in terms of epidemiology. On the other hand, not really given the flexibility beforehand. For example, the price is evaluated and brought into an envelope to the negotiation room. And MNC is not really literally, or pharma is not really literally negotiating it. It has 3 opportunity of bidding to meet the price in the envelope. And if 3 opportunities pass and the pharma fail to meet the expectation of what's written in the envelope, then the product is out. So there's not a lot of room to wiggle in terms of this access process. That is also why we see if an MNC product is facing strong local competition, there's a lot chance, unless there's a lot of chance that the MNC might stay out of the NRDL just because the price being too low to justify the P&L sheet. And if we look at different products today, they do require different type of business model. For example, when you have an innovative, perhaps specialty care launch, right? You do need that person-to-person touch, that sales rep engagement, helped with digital tools and medical affairs that we mentioned before to really emphasize and shape the market and make sure the perception is there to ready your product prescription. But if we are talking about, for example, more of the consumer-driven products such as the GLP-1, the HCP are not really essentially decision maker because the so-called obesity market is not really predominantly for all the obese patients. It's for patients who want to have a slimmer body shape. They might not be obese at all. So this is where they invest. This is the consumer, the social media, the patient activation that the pharma invest to make sure and create a loop, a commercial partnership and all that to create a loop between activating their needs and connecting the prescriber. Instead of telling the prescriber how to educate their patients, they educate the patients through social media on disease, on the utilization of the product. And also, if we look at the go-to-market model, there's definitely a portfolio play, right? For example, that we have mentioned these successful company before, that all have a very focused division in terms of which TA, which therapeutic area or disease area they want to continue to invest. For example, AstraZeneca, they invest in lung cancer a lot, and Roche invest in breast tumor and all that. And this focus has been enabling their success continuously over the years, and also making sure that the R&D is always on par with what they're trying to achieve commercially. So if we look at for example, the diabetes, right? It used to be insulin dominated, and there's SGLT2, DPP4, and GLP-1, right? And this the evolvement of GLP-1 is somewhere that pharma shall be continuously investing to upgrade the GLP-1 or even coming up with GIP, GLP, all the other innovative assets to continue to develop a focused investment in the same TA, right? Instead of jumping around between different TAs, right? This is what has allowed the pharma to succeed in China, and also what the business model is requiring. Do you have a portfolio that with generational improvement continuously that you can bring to this TA is the key to success. And if you look at vaccine, if we look at all the other different type of markets, the same thing applies, right? And with that being said, we do see also how we deal with the portfolio. For example, if the MNC or if the pharma has a mixture of innovative products and off-patent products, right? There's a lot they can invest in terms of the business model. For example, finding a potent partner to co-promote the innovative product to minimize the cost, the promotional cost, and maximize the margin. Well, on the other hand, to really save cost and be cost effective overall, they can out-license their mature portfolio to sort of the CSOs in China to make sure that the resources, especially the self-owned team, are allocated towards innovation, promoting the innovation. And last one, I think this is the last one. Yeah. So last but not least, we look at the evolvement of AI, sort of the technology part of how the industry has evolved, right? Before AI was perhaps a keyword on the news, right now it has been really penetrating in terms of everyday life, right? We do use AI, especially the DeepSeek model or the DeepSeek expanded model to ask any question in life, and they will give you a proper answer. And that's already has been closely integrated in our daily life. And also, what we can envision that for pharmaceutical company is the same thing. For example, a lot of the data company, a lot of sort of the digitalized company has been collaborating with the AI to make sure that the consumer or the client can extract the maximum out of the value in their data providing. For example, if you're a provider providing trial data, providing chemical drug data, providing all the R&D data to the client. Right now, it's AI enabled. For example, the client perhaps can simply ask a simple question to the AI, and the AI help you consolidate and analyze the data in that database. And also, we have things local players following up with AI technology to make sure that they keep up with the latest business scenario in their desktop research and receiving the information. Um, and also, for example, leading MNC player like Sanofi has been pretty much AI use AI to consolidate all the sales data and performance data within, especially if we look at the Salesforce excellence part of the world. One business owner can open the AI application and type in, for example, I want to understand the business performance between this city and that city and tell me what is missing. Then the AI can help them extract all the data available within Sanofi, stored within Sanofi, its own historical data, and help them help them down analysis and come up with conclusion for the business owner. And this has been very much more effective and efficient, especially if we compare that with the old way, right? They had to mandate someone in their team before and to help them extract data and transfer that data to Excel and try to come up with different different forms and different graphs, right? Then to analyze, then to come up with conclusion, then to have a meeting reporting to this business owner. Right now, it can be done just by a click away. And all the conclusion came up in a few seconds, and that can really accelerate the decision making and maximize sort of the quality of decision making. And this is what happening within the industry sector. In the future, we do envision as the AI continuously to evolve, we do envision that AI sort of taking the service part, at least not fully, but at least become a very helpful tool for the patients and the healthcare service providers. For example, for smaller diseases such as dermatology, lighter diseases such as less severe disease such as dermatology, right? We can't have the AI reading off the picture to tell the symptom, and also we can have the AI understand the symptom described by the patient and give the real doctor much faster and much more consolidated results for the doctor to contemplate, right? And in certain areas such as ophthalmology, right, and such as in certain image and direct diagnostics, we can also have the AI helping that. And for simple requests, for example, just prescription refill or health checkup, we can also have a digitalized doctor even to serve the patient on basic level of questions and needs. So we do see what AI has enabled, especially in terms of boosting the efficiency and effectiveness of the business. And we also see a huge upside potential for that to penetrate into the service sector. yeah, to summarize, right, we have talked about with the portfolio, regardless of how you get it, perhaps through BDs, through R&D, through collaboration with the other pharma, to make sure that it match what the market requires in the future. And also sort of the access, right? NRDL is getting harder and more strict on pricing requirements. So an integrated access mindset is very important instead of looking at an RDL as a must-have or as the only choice. Third is the business model. The business model has been very diverse, has been very much evolved. But the most important thing is make sure that the business model fit into the requirement of the TA-focused portfolio, of the innovative-driven portfolio, and understanding what the different TA requires and what different portfolio requires. For example, the mature products perhaps need to be out-licensed in a cost-effective way, and certain TA require certain different capabilities of the business model, whether it's patient activation or medical affairs. And last but not least, the AI gave us a lot of room to imagine, to picture in the future a huge upside potential that technology can bring to the industry. Though healthcare industry has always been the slowest among all the other industry in terms of applying digitalization and technology, but we do see the potential of how this can revolutionize the way we conduct businesses and how we can further improve efficiency of work. And that would be, I think that would be all from my part today. I just want to thank everyone again for the time.
Okay, thank you, Vincent, for that data-driven and forward-looking analysis. Now it's open the floor to the question from our audience. If you'd like to ask Vincent anything about his presentation, please drop your question in the Q&A box. Notice it's the Q&A box, and we will take 2 questions. Yeah, thank you. And we can go to the Q&A box and to see the question. Yeah, the first question is provided by the Anki. And what specific capacities and or the assets do you see as most attractive in the Chinese biotechs today? Vincent.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I think in terms of, I think you have to closely examine sort of the aspiration of the buyer, right, or the aspiration of the acquirer. For example, if one company is aiming to bring the assets towards global market instead of focusing on China market, I think they can look at a lot of assets in CAR T, in cell therapy, because these are the innovators that has to go abroad. China just doesn't have a payer or access pathway that allows them to be successful in China, which means even if you pick up the same quality assets, for example, in CAR T, TCR-T, or universal CAR T in China, you are picking them up at a much lower value, right? Because they're depreciated in China market because the market doesn't have the capacity to pay for the premium in cell therapy. But if we were to look at competing in the future China market, for example, purchasing the assets and mainly just focusing on the rights and commercializing it in China, I think you had to look at oncology. The broader oncology, the antibodies, right? The bispecific, the trispecifics, the trispecific ADC, right? Because it's instead of being a gimmick, they really bring out a lot of benefits. For example, just the PD-1 combining VEGF bispecific antibody brings better efficacy, slightly better efficacy than the PD-1 and VEGF mono combo, but also much better, greater, superior safety gains or safety profile than the 2 monoclonal antibodies. So there's a significant improvement that we spotted in these new technical platform in China, and definitely very valuable to invest.
Okay. Other questions? If not, so thank you. The question provided by Anki, and a huge round of applause again for the Vincent Liu. And yeah, thanks for your sharing today. Yeah, and building on this foundation, we now turn to the policy and collaboration links. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Pan Yue, the Secretary General of the Working Committee of International Public Procurement and Vice Secretary General of the Working Committee of China's Central Eastern European Countries Public Health Industry Alliance. Ms. Pan's leadership in bridging the China's healthcare sector with global partners offer a critical perspective on aligning the policies with cross-border scenarios. Ms. Pan, over to you.
Thank you. And hello, everyone. I'm Pan Yue from CCCM HPIE, and I work in the Department of International Cooperation. Today, I would like to share my views and some general analysis about the development of China's healthcare industry. My speech will be divided into 4 parts, and here is the outline. So let's start it with China's healthcare industry. Okay, let's back to part 1. Let's give a general picture about China's healthcare industry. So first, as the aspect of output value, in 2024, the added value of the healthcare industry above designated sites reached 1.34 billion US dollars with the 3.4% year-on-year growth at constant prices. I think this figure can reflect the recovery of healthcare industry from the pandemic and also the producing capacity and the recovery of the business environment. And for the different categories of products, although the recovery from last year, the operating income of enterprises remains flat, but the profit growth rate shows the general declining trend. Except for APIs, medical equipment, and medical disposables, these 3 products account most for the exportation of China's health products, so they can still remain the positive growth. But for the general declining trend, I think it can credit to 2 main reasons. One is the more and more fierce competition, both in the domestic and the international society. And the other one is the RMB depreciation. It may cause some impact on the US dollar valuation. And for market size, we can see in 2024, the US still ranked the biggest global healthcare market in the world, followed by EU. Then China ranked the 3rd with like 17% share. And for review and approval, here are some results achieved by China's FDA, called NMPA. In 2024, 48 first-class new drugs were approved for the market. And anti-tumor is still the most concentrated area. And for R&D aspect, till now, China ranks the 2nd largest pharma R&D country. And from the left form, we can see the US still has the biggest pipelines in the world. But in 2024, it's for the first time, the proportion of its pipeline dropped by the 50%, and China grew to the 26.7% with 3% growth than the last year. And on the right side, we can see from the bar chart, it shows the development of China's R&D pipelines in the past 30 years. Since 1991, China has had only one product pipeline. Until now, we have more than 6,000 pipelines. I think behind this figure, it shows the capacity and the rapid development of China's pharmaceutical companies. And for patent applications, above all the global biomedicine patents, we can see China ranked the second now, and it owns about 220,000 patents applications. But also we can see in the major healthcare market, such as the SRA countries, China only owns a lot of patent share in the Chinese market. In other SRA markets, we can see the US, Japan, Germany, UK account more. And for representative companies, according to the American Industrial magazine PharmaXX ranking, four Chinese pharma companies were on the list of the 2024 top 50 global pharma companies. They are Yunnan Baiyao, Sino Biopharmaceutical, Shanghai Pharmaceuticals Holding, and Jiangsu Hengrui Pharmaceuticals. Their products range from the chemical drugs and the innovative drugs, traditional Chinese medicines, and the medical devices. According to another international information platform, Sidelines statistic, four Chinese companies are included in the top 25 pharma companies by the size of pipelines, which are Jiangsu Hengrui, Sino Biopharmaceutical. These two companies were just mentioned also in the list of PharmaXX. And the other two is Shanghai Fosun Pharmaceutical and CSPC Pharmaceutical. Speak of the financing cooperation. In 2024, 656 investment and financing events happened in the domestic healthcare industry and involving 615 companies. We can see compared to 2023, here is a general declining trend. Also, it shows in the specific products. And medical devices is still the most popular area for the financing cooperation. And on the right side, it shows in the past 10 years, the development of financing cooperation amount. We can see before the pandemic, the gross amount and number of incidents, they are fluctuant, but generally shows an increasing trend. After the pandemic, both of the indicators all show the falling down trend. And for industrial cluster, it's also more and more clusters are showing today in different provinces of China. And here are some the major three. The major three industrial clusters are mostly located in eastern China. And in outside, here is the Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei region. And for this region, it has formed a coordinated development pattern. Like many pharmaceutical companies, they locate their headquarters or innovative research department or government affairs department in Beijing and site their manufacturing factory or warehousing in Hebei and Tianjin. And in the middle is the Yangtze River Delta region. In this region, I think most of the China's biomedical companies are gathering here, and they contribute about 1/3 of the output value and the sales of the national pharmaceutical industry. And in the south, here is the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Great Bay area. In this area for foreign trade, the mechanism of the Great Bay Area Joint Research and Development Mechanism has been established to form this kind of working mechanism to manufacturing in Guangdong and going global in Hong Kong. And for regulatory Here is also a Hong Kong and Macau drug and equipment connection. It can help the innovation in the supervision of complementary advantages. So after analyzing all the facts, I think we can conclude some trends of the development of China's healthcare industry. For the innovative drugs and biosimilars, they are rapidly developed, and also the sales both in domestic and international is increasing. And for like artificial intelligence and also some mRNA vaccines, AI machine learnings, they will be the hot topic now and for the future. And then for the health products exploitation is also recovering from the pandemic. And for some specific products, they also have the outstanding performance in the exploitation, such as the medicines for flu, antibodies, and also blood products. And besides, due to the volume-based procurement, the price of drugs is keeping declining. Also, in some areas, the competition is fierce, both in domestic and international, such as the APIs, generics, vaccines. And also the pressures of the international trade has been transmitted to the whole industrial chain. And now let's move to part two. Here are also some relevant policies updated to uh, assist the development of the industry. Under the general mechanism of the 14th Five-Year Plan for the Development of Healthcare Industry since 2021 to 2025, the main aims are to promote the expanding of exploitation and TCM going global, China brand cultivation, and also the R&D capacity enhancement. 2025 is the ending year of the 14th Five-Year Plan and also will be the preparing year for the next Five-Year Plan. So many relevant policies was released, and also the policies will be more and more open for the foreign trade and investment. So here are some policies about the promotion for international development, and such as the pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and the TCM, new drugs, and new technologies. I want to emphasize the policies about new drugs. In 2024, here is a implementation plan for the whole chain to support the development of innovative drugs issued by the State Council. This implementation plan will not only mobilize the government departments to help the development of domestic innovative drugs, but also will create a better business environment for foreign companies. And also in the beginning of 2025, Beijing and Shenzhen, the two very advancing cities, also issued the relevant documents to encourage the development of innovative drugs. And for regulatory reinforcement, for quality control, the supervision on the whole life circle of health products has been taken more attention now. And also R&D side, NMPA issued some pilot work plans for better review and approval. And for medical system improvement, it covers from the medical service to quality enhancement, hierarchical treatment, and elderly care. I think among them, elderly care is now a very hot topic today in China, because under the circumstance of the intensifying elderly aging problem, so a lot of policies were released to encourage the well-being of the elderly. And it also expanded the demand of the relevant health products such as the drugs, nutraceuticals, and the elderly-oriented medical devices. And in the future, it also will promote the development of healthcare industry too. And for promoting the equity and effectiveness of procurement and reimbursement, here are also some policies, such as in 2024, the 11th batch of volume-based procurement of drugs and the 5th batch of medical devices were conducted. And also, the Ministry of Finance also issued the notice on domestic product standards and implementation policies in the field of government procurement. And it gave the policies that in the future government procurement, they will give a 20% discount for the price review for domestic products to the non-domestic products. And also for medical insurance, the DRG and DIP payment has been promoted further. And then let's move to part 3, the internationalization of the industry. First, as we speak the internationalization, we need to focus on the trade volume first. In 2024, China's healthcare trade volume reached about 20 billion US dollars and with a 2.13 year-on-year growth. For the categories, we can see from the pie chart, pharmaceuticals account half, then the medical equipment account about 45%. And for specific products of pharmaceuticals, APIs account most, taking about 80%. And for the specific products of medical devices, we can see hospital diagnostic and treatment products accounts most, then the medical disposables and rehabilitation equipment. For the exporting market, from region side, we can see One Belt and One Road region accounts the first exporting market, taking more than 40% of the market share. Is getting more and more important. And in the future, confronting with the very complicated geopolitical international society. So the Belt and Road region will increasingly to be an important market for Chinese products. And for the top 10 exporting countries, we can see US still dominates the biggest destination for Chinese exportation. And also on the list, we can see some emerging countries like Brazil and Vietnam. They also show on the list. And project cooperation is another way for international cooperation. Here are some examples. Is the cooperation projects conducted between China and ASEAN countries. ASEAN now is a very mature country for international cooperation. And also some examples from between China and Central Eastern European countries cooperation. CEE country is also a very potential market, and it's also a bridge to entering the EU market. So we can conclude the diverse cooperation into 4 types: R&D, clinical trials, financing, and local production. Local production today is also a very hot topic in the whole world. It's the key element for building the local supply chain for, I think, every country, especially after the pandemic. And for technology transfer, 2023 is the first year China's number of license out surpassed license in, and in 2024, the number of license out is way beyond the license in. 110 license out cases happened with down payment reaching 5.3 billion US dollars, and the number of licensing is only 35. And the sales of the new drug listed abroad have reached a new high. It's 10 times than the number in 2019. Another area about the internationalization is public procurement. I take UN procurement as example. Here the timeline shows in the past 5 years, China's participation in UN procurement reached a new high in 2020 and 2021, mostly due to the contribution of the anti-pandemic products and vaccines. And because of this contribution, China ranked the third place in the total value in these 2 years. But after the generalized control and the management of the pandemic in 2022 and 2023, the volume of participation has dropped to normal. And the major UN purchasing agencies that buying medical products from China, they are UNICEF, PAHO, WHO, UNFPA, and UNDP. And also on the red form listed the top 10 Chinese companies taking part in the UN procurement according to different categories. And I think most of the companies, they are members of our chamber. And here are some results achieved by Chinese products that passed the international registration, especially for the SRAs, such as the US FDA, CEP, WHOPQ, etc. And also NMPA take part in the bilateral and multilateral international regulatory coordination too, such as the ICH, IMDRF, and PICS. And in 2023, WHO announced China passed the National Regulatory System Assessment for Vaccines. It also can be recognized by the international registration standard to prove the capacity of China's vaccines industry. And also here is a case study. I take a pioneer pharmaceutical company, Beijing, as example. I think through this case study, we can see the development and the internationalization strategy of China's China's pharmaceutical company. Beijing is a company focused on the new therapies and innovative drugs. The pipelines of Beijing have mostly 17 self-developed and co-commercialized products, mostly for anti-tumor therapy. And its strategy for internationalization first is to focusing on the drug discovery and early clinical development by themselves. They will advance the transformative drug candidates into the late stage clinical development to maximizing the value through the fast to POC. And also, Beijing is not relying on CEO. It gathers more than 1,000 scientists by itself and also promote the clinical trials by automation and artificial intelligence technology. And also for international registrations, we can see like these star products, they promote the registration in international societies by SRAs and constantly to expand the scope of indications. And also, Beijing built its self-owned team for the whole life cycle of products covering from the global clinical, manufacturing, and also the commercial teams. So we can see from the revenue in 2024, Baiji's revenue reached about 3.8 billion US dollars, and among them, 63 is covered by the overseas revenue. And also the US and the European markets are the biggest engine for the revenue growth. So I think we can get a conclusion to the process of internationalization of China's healthcare industry. In the past, China started with APIs and low-value consumables, and then to promote the capacity of the generic drugs and small and medium-sized medical devices as transition. And now the steps of innovation capacity building and regulatory policy coordination with international high-level rule has already been the mainstreams for Chinese pharmaceutical companies. And after the general analysis about the industry, I would like to give a short introduction about CCC and HPIE's contribution. So, as the industrial organization, we serve as the bridge between the government and enterprises, and also the domestic and the international society. We also conduct very fruitful cooperation with other stakeholders. From bilateral side, we have the relevant mechanisms. We are the point of contact of healthcare working group under the ministerial level working group with Italy, Britain, Denmark, and also we have long-term relations with embassies in China and the relevant organizations. And from regional side, we established the relevant alliance with CEE countries, Central Asia country, and ICO country. Also, Africa is a focused area for us. We keep working under the mechanism of FOCAC. And for international registration, every year we organize the relevant seminars or meetings, such as the International Regulatory Agencies Updates Forum during CPHI China exhibition. We invite the relevant experts from US FDA, US Pharmacopoeia, Japan Pharmacopoeia, China Pharmacopoeia, and WHO PQ team to let them release the latest policies and also have the face-to-face communication with Chinese companies. And also for international public procurement, we established the working committee of international public procurement and to conduct diverse events such as the report and analysis release and organize the online and offline meetings. And also we operate the specialized communities on China's social media. And also we have the project cooperation with many UN agencies and other NGOs. So I will end my speech here and thanks for listening.
Yeah. Okay. As we wrap up, I'd like to extend my sincere gratitude to the Ms. Pan and Mr. Vincent for their illuminating presentations. Thank you for all joining today's webinar. More information about China farmer market, latest regulations and policies, industrial innovations are all available during the CPHI and the PMAC China 2025, taking place in June 24th to 26th in Shanghai, China. You may simply scan the QR code on the screen, and I can simply to scan the QR code on the screen and to get registered to join this year's event and make further connection with key person from the farmer community. So don't miss out our biggest edition yet. So we look forward to meeting you in person in Shanghai. That's all the time we have for today. And thank you again to our speakers and to everyone in the audience. And see you in June. And people, you can scan the QR code and get registered